This is what we are. We are.
Okay, so I promise I have my phone because apparently I'm supposed to carry notes on here, so my notes are on my phone, you know? But it's also the added bonus that I get to take like selfies. So should we take a selfie? Yeah? Can you guys wave? Yes! Because we all know that I freaking love social media, right? Speaking of DNA, it's really hot up here, right? It's very bright. I'm Middle Eastern, so I'm pretty sure it's like in our DNA that we sweat a lot. So if I start getting shiny up here, Lauren, please throw some powder at me, okay? Okay, I'm really excited to be here. I've actually been counting down the days until I could join you guys here. So first, can we just start out with like giving a huge round of applause to the organizers and all the speakers that were here today? Yeah? Are you guys inspired? Yes. Truly inspiring, truly phenomenal. And for me personally, I'm so happy that I get to be part of this portion of the event. And to kick it off with talking about labels, because that is something that I know very well, you know? So, I'm going to open with this quote that I would like all of you guys to take into consideration. If you want to make a human being into a monster, deny them at the cultural level any reflection of themselves. This is a quote that was reiterated to me by a woman named Zareen Joffrey. It's not her quote, she got it from a book. But she is the editor of an imprint at Simon & Schuster called Salam Reads, which focuses on publishing books with main characters that are Muslim. Shocking, right? But this is a philosophy that I think she and I very strongly believe in, right? And I think for a lot of people, we can see how labels can constrict us in this way. Sometimes they can empower us, but many times what we see taking place today is, it can be very harmful, it can be very dangerous, right? Like, for example, I would like to start actually by asking all of you guys to just shout it out, okay? Like shout it out at me, because I can't see you guys. But just tell me, when you hear the word Muslim woman, what are some of the first words, some of the first labels that come to your mind? Shut them out. Oppressed. Terrorist. Hijab. I can think of a few more. Muslim women are a hot topic right now, right? We're literally the topic of conversation right now. Everybody is talking about us. But I think the important question is to ask who's the one doing the talking, right? This is probably what comes to mind when you think Muslim woman. And it's so funny because literally the very first word that you all, multiple of you shouted out, is the very first label I added on here, oppressed, right? Maybe you'll see us as terrorists, voiceless, weak, victims, violent, backwards. Does this image behind me look anything like me or some of the Muslim women that you know or that are in your lives? No? No. Right? And yet this right here is, the background of it is a Google search result. All I did was type in the word Muslim woman and just saw what the search results were that popped up, and you can see they are the same image of Muslim women repeated over and over and over again, okay? This defines the way every user on the internet views, labels, defines Muslim women. Those pictures don't look like me, and these pictures definitely don't look like me, am I right? The media representing us doesn't represent us. Now, this might seem like a no-brainer to some. It might seem like an issue of inconvenience. So what? Get over it, right? Maybe you're not included, maybe you're not represented in like some TV show or in some roundtable on the news talking about the war on terror. Okay, sure, they're always talking about Muslim women, and okay, yeah, maybe Muslim women are never the ones included in the conversation about Muslim women, but hey, Who cares? This is really important. The representation of our diverse narratives, our diverse faces and backgrounds is crucial. It's not a matter of inconvenience. It's a matter of survival. It's a matter of humanity. And this plays out in real life, in our politics, every single day. I want to throw it back to 2001. Let's take it back to 2001. This is Laura Bush, yeah, recognizable face. Laura Bush, when the United States wanted to rally public support around a military intervention in the Afghanistan war, right? At the time, it was for a very political purpose. It was because the United States just suffered one of the most significant terrorist attacks in its history. We wanted blood. And we needed American and global support to go into Afghanistan and other countries in the Middle East that actually had nothing to do with 9/11. And so, in order for her to get everyone's support around the Afghanistan war, she gave an iconic radio address as a First Lady, in which she stated, "Civilized people throughout the world are speaking out in horror, not only because our hearts break for the women and children in Afghanistan, but also because in Afghanistan, we see the world the terrorists would like to impose on the rest of us." This isn't from some book from the 1800s or from the colonial era. This is literally from just a few years ago. And we're talking about another people, another culture, as backwards, as being uncivilized, as needing us to liberate them, right? We rested a political military intervention on the backs of Muslim women. We made their oppression our excuse to what? In retrospect, to actually disproportionately impact and devastate Muslim women and Muslim children more than anybody else when we went in and we destroyed Afghanistan. So yeah, media misrepresentation, it's not just a matter of inconvenience. Actually, for a lot of us, it's a matter of life or death. It's pretty serious. This is me in high school. Hey, it's my yearbook. I would never dig this up out of my archives for anybody else but you guys, so just know that, okay? And at this time, I was 13, 14 years old, and I had just come back from my first trip to the Middle East. At that time in my life, this media misrepresentation not only was translating in a political way in the world around me, but it also was really devastating me personally on an individual basis as well, as it did with my peers, with many of my friends, with my family. The year before this, before I decided to visit the Middle East, I decided to start lying about my religion for the first time when I was in school. I was sitting on a school bus on my way home from a long day of being bullied, tortured mercilessly by my peers. And at the time, I didn't wear a headscarf, so not many people might have known that I was a Muslim. And in fact, the student sitting next to me on the bus asked me, "What religion are you?" Very simple question. But because of everything that was going on at the time, because of everything being said about Muslims, being said about Muslim women, who we are, what we stand for, what we represent, I was terrified in that moment, which lasted maybe 5 seconds. To me, it felt like a lifetime. I felt terrified to say I'm a Muslim because I was scared of the judgments from him, from other kids, from my teachers. And so in that moment, actually, maybe this actually is true. I should really do one of those DNA tests. I said, I'm Mediterranean or something. I forgot, Maybe I am Mediterranean. It's very likely. But it really has a tremendous impact, especially on children, when they are dealing with something as treacherous as media misrepresentation, hounding them with inaccurate headlines, with an Islamophobic environment. Just a few months back, a young child, a little boy in the UK, came to his mother, who's a Muslim boy. He came home from school one day. He came to his mother, crying about being bullied in school. He told her that he wanted to move, he wanted to go somewhere else. They kept teasing him about being a Muslim. And his mom took a phone call or something, whatever. She went back to continue the conversation with her son, and she found him hanging in his bedroom. So actually, for me, what I had to go through, I'm one of the lucky ones. Now, at this time, I did realize that this was a problem, right? Nobody should have to feel forced to hide themselves. And I think that my trip to the Middle East did a tremendous job in transforming my perspective of the world around me. When I went there for the first time, and I was able to hear the stories of Islam and of what's going on in the Middle East, of the Arab culture, in the voices of actual Muslims, and the voices of the actual Arab people that we keep talking about over here, it changed everything for me, right? I had never met more hospitable people. I had never been more aware of the fact that there was a tremendous contrast between the way that the reality was in the Middle East and the way that it was being spoken about in the news back home in New Jersey, where I grew up. And so that opened my eyes to not just the sheer danger of this media misrepresentation, the way that everyone around me just had the picture totally wrong, but also the incredible power of amplifying our authentic voices, telling stories, telling our own narratives in our words, right? This might have been me when I was in high school and I was being bullied and hiding my religion and whatnot, okay? But I think that with some labels, sorry guys, this clicker is so hard, I'm so not. There we go. The personal is political. And I really think that, it's probably Trump trying to F with my little thing over here, stop that from showing up. So, yes, with some labels, the personal is political for me at this point, right? And so while the political was impacting me on a personal level, and it was devastating me as a teenager, I do believe that these days I look much better than this. This was me in high school, right? It led to me joining forces with a bunch of other Muslim girls that were my age, millennial Muslims, and we decided that, hey, we need a space of our own, right? And we need a space where we're not pandering to anybody, where we're not constantly doing the token route that many other Muslims around the world, or a lot of organizations around the world were doing, which was pandering to non-Muslims, to the West, and saying things like, we're human beings. Please respect us. Please give us our dignity. Please understand that we're not all terrorists, that we're also nice people too, Instead, we decided we needed a space for us to talk about the things that we wanted to talk about. A space for us to cultivate our identities in a moment when we were robbed of that opportunity growing up because our society was trying to enforce upon us what our identities were instead of allowing us to define that for ourselves. And we needed a space to have the conversations that were actually relevant to our lives. At the time that we started this website, the only conversations happening online surrounding Muslims were always, first of all, mixed gender, right? So there's men, women, whoever, and so there wasn't really conversations happening or pertaining to specifically Muslim women, which of course we experience much more unique issues. And then the very few conversations that were focusing on Muslim women were focused on superficial things like what a Muslim woman should or should not wear in public, whether or not it's permissible for her to wear nail polish when she prays. A lot of people on the internet are pissed off at me for that, but who cares? And there wasn't talk about the actual issues that we were dealing with, especially as millennials. For me at the time, I was experiencing extreme bullying. I was struggling to go to school every single day. I didn't know how to talk to my teachers about Islam and correct them when they were teaching our class that, everyone in Iraq that got killed in Abu Ghraib prisons were actually terrorists instead of the civilians that they really were, right? And so this space, creating a platform online, was our refuge. These days, Muslim Girl has seen a lot of growth. We became, last year, the first Muslim company on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. we were invited to speak or to represent ourselves on platforms like with Shonda Rhimes, President Clinton, Gloria Steinem. We did a video series with Teen Vogue, one of the first video series of its kind with any major American magazine focused on Muslim women, where we created videos showcasing or combating different stereotypes that people have about Muslim women. And actually, just this week, we discovered, or we got the news that it won a Webby Award for that. So, thank you. And for many of these accomplishments, this has brought the conversation about Muslims and Muslim women to an unprecedented level in mainstream media in the United States and in Western countries. But the thing is, none of us woke up one day and were like, oh my God, you guys, wouldn't it be cool if we were on the Forbes 30 under 30 list? Or, oh my God, you guys, let's do something that's gonna get us like a web series with Teen Vogue. No. What we did was wake up one day and ask ourselves, what do we need to do to survive? And that's what Muslim Girl is. We never asked to be entrepreneurs. We had to be entrepreneurs, right? We had to create a media platform to combat that misrepresentation. And unfortunately, these days, with the reality that's staring us in the face over the next few years, it seems to me that a platform like this is going to be needed more than ever, especially for the next generation growing up. And I'm hoping that with a platform like Muslim Girl, we're going to make it a little bit less difficult for the other Muslim girls growing up that will have to be enduring Islamophobia under a Trump presidency. Now, it's been a tremendous journey for us to get here. And the thing is, for up until last year, since I was in high school, Muslim Girl was entirely volunteer. No funds, no resources. I started Muslim Girl with a $7 domain name registration. And at the time, one of my friends had a hosting plan. She had her own website, and so she added on our domain to hers just so we can get hosting for free. And some of these girls were some of our first writers. They were some of my friends from the mosque, from my high school, right? So we didn't have resources. We didn't get venture capital like right off the jump in order for us to become one of the biggest platforms for Muslim women in the world. But what we did have was the keyboards at our fingertips. There we go. Social media, right? We had the internet. We had blogs. We had a tool that made it easy for us to have these conversations, that enabled us to be able to do them with whatever we had available to us. And I think that the three key things about social media that allowed us to do this, that allowed us to combat those labels in a tangible and effective and historic way, has been that social media offers an avenue that is borderless, right? Nobody cares about no walls when you're on social media. It's a beautiful thing. It's anonymous. Now, this was even more relevant around that time that Muslim Girl started, because it was 2009, so around 2011 is when the Arab Spring happened. The anonymity of the internet was a tremendous topic of conversation, because a lot of these political activists were on social media because they were able to be anonymous. A lot of Arab women in the Arab Spring, in these protests, especially in Egypt that we saw, they went online, they registered on social media with male names in order to, whether it was to combat cultural taboos, whether it was to circumvent family pressure, whatever it was, whether to just hide from the government. And as sad as it is for me to say this, and yet also I'm happy that we're able to do this, the anonymity thing is still just as popular on MuslimGirl.com as ever right now, right? So initially, we're talking about things that might have been taboo topics and whatnot, things that Westerners, non-Muslims might not understand. These days, we have been evolving our content so tremendously that we're even going internally within our own community, digging up that dirty laundry and blasting it so that we can make sure that the Muslim community itself is on tip-top shape and representing itself the way that it prides itself on representing itself. And so many of our writers, they talk about things that happen to them that their families might not be happy with. They talk about issues that they're confronted with. Some of them talk about becoming rape victims or rape survivors, right? And all of the family stigma, the cultural taboo surrounding that. One of the articles that we published just a few weeks ago was about a Muslim girl that was violated by her Quran teacher. It was anonymous. And if it weren't for the anonymity of the internet, we wouldn't be able to have these conversations, right? And in the same way, even for girls or for young women to be active against Islamophobia, to be active politically, it is very intimidating. For many of them, even just associating with the F word, feminism, is also a huge stigma, and so they maintain the anonymity. But without it, we definitely would not be getting anywhere, or being able to, or we would not be able to tackle as many of the important issues that we can with it. It makes girls feel safe. And then, of course, most importantly, and also depending on where you are with the whole conversation around internet security and whatnot, this might be a contentious issue to you, but social media and the internet is still undeniably democratic, right? On social media, no one cares, what investments you're getting, what powers are behind you, who you're affiliating with and whatnot to get that influence or that power. All they care about is what you got to say, right? What voice you're putting out there. And because of that, we've been able to elevate our voices far and wide. Because of the democratic nature of the internet and social media, we've been able to first spike the interest in Muslim women's voices, and then harness this interest in Muslim women's voices that has absolutely catapulted over the past couple of years into something that is tangible, into something that we can showcase to everyone, that there is an actual interest in what we have to say, right? To showcase to the powers that be, that are the ones like, oh, no one cares about what Muslim women are saying anyway, so let's just have this white guy say it so we can get more views. Actually, we won a Webby Award now, so you gotta probably pay attention to us, right? This is really important because due to the democratic nature of social media, there we go, MuslimGirl.com was able to have a fighting chance to be heard above all of the white noise of corporate media, of these major conglomerates, these major companies, and actually have our voices be represented, for us to speak for ourselves and be true and authentic to what our experiences are really like. And in doing that, this is really how we were able to get mainstream media to come to us. We didn't go knocking on any doors or pandering to anybody or saying things that they want us to say just so that they can listen to us. Instead, we turned the tables and we made it about us. We said, this is a moment for us to collect ourselves and talk about what we need, what's important to us. And when people started listening, so did the corporate media. And a lot of people wanted to hear what we had to say. And in this way, we've been able to create a change in how Muslim women are being represented, right? In this way, we've been able to inject Muslim women into the conversation that's been about them all along. And one of those ways is, one of the biggest accomplishments that we've had so far, actually, we just made happen last month. So last month in the United States, I'm not sure if in other parts of the world, but in the United States, it's Women's History Month. Yeah? March? Cool? So Women's History Month, to me, it's always been like Women's History Year, but like whatever, I get it. We need a month, I guess. So for Women's History Month, we decided to do now it goes to the next slide. Muslim Women's Day, right? March 27th. This was the first time ever that we wanted to make a day celebrating Muslim women of all backgrounds in all their forms. And it was really important for us to do it last month, not only because it was Women's History Month and we wanted to make sure that Muslim women got their moment, but also because what was at the same time happening in the United States. Anybody? The Muslim ban? Yeah? We were kind of saying that we don't want any Muslim women to be in the country. That's kind of bad. So we decided to do Muslim Women's Day because we especially wanted people to remember that all of these Muslim women and these people that were too scared to be at our borders, and these individuals that we keep slandering in the media, that we want to emphasize Islamophobia against, that they're actual human beings. They're people in your lives. They're people that can be, your neighbor, the person, the waitress down the street, anyone who's in your local neighborhood. And this was a way for us to really ask people to flood the internet with photos, messages of solidarity, things like that. But that was just the cream of the crop. What was at the core of Muslim Women's Day and what made it so significant is that these logos that you see up here are literally only a fraction of the media partners that we were able to get on board to pledge to pass the mic to Muslim women on March 27th by centering their voices, stories, and narratives on their platforms for the day. So we had dozens of the most visible digital brands from MTV, Refinery 29, the United States of Women, Huffington Post, Teen Vogue, Complex, Glamour, Allure. So many individuals, even Tumblr and Twitter itself, signed on to pledge to elevate Muslim women's voices for the day. And so when March 27th rolled around, and any internet user logged on for the day or opened up their phone browser, their entire newsfeed was being flooded by all of these platforms publishing new, positive, diverse, representational content about Muslim women. Cool stories that people had never heard of before, right? Not your typical, oh my God, she wears a hijab, she's so fashionable type of story. Oh my God, she's breaking stereotypes. But actually telling what those experiences are. And we were able to also position a lot of Muslim women writers to be the ones to do those bylines, to be the ones to write those stories, to pen them in their own words. And so on this day, Muslim Women's Day became the #1 trending hashtag on the internet. It went absolutely viral. We made it impossible to ignore Muslim women. And what we saw that was the most beautiful thing is that media companies far, far beyond those that we partnered with initially were joining in on the cause. And on that day, when they saw this Muslim Women's Day thing going on, they all started putting out their own content too, their own positive stories about Muslim women. And it was a really powerful thing. And it was beautiful for me personally to witness. It was one of the happiest days of my life, honestly. Now, I want to take it back to this first image that I opened up the presentation with, right? This image or these images have been haunting me for most of my life, right? For me, as a young Muslim girl who was 9 years old when September 11 happened, who grew up and who experienced puberty and had her formative years under the height of modern-day Islamophobia, who had to lie about her religion in school, these were the pictures that I was being hounded with, that were bombarding me, that were forcing me to close up and feel alienated from the society around me, to feel like I wasn't I didn't belong to it, to feel like I was hated, right? And for me, I'm so proud that today we get to say that we are actually doing a very major step to completely change this. This year, last month, we were able to announce a new partnership with Getty Images, where we created a new stock photo collection showcasing pictures of Muslim women from different colors, different backgrounds, different body types, different ages, wearing hijab, wearing not hijab, doing things that they would normally do. We were able to create stock photos that became instantly available to every media company, journalist, Getty subscriber on the internet. And it's really unfathomable how something as simple as the availability of images online can completely change the way we label an entire group of people. When you look at these pictures behind me now, what are some of the first words that come to your mind? Shout them out. Happy, right? Light, positive, strong, smiling, optimistic, right? Now we're looking at things like, wow, Muslim girls can be fashionable. Muslim girls have friends. They're social too. Muslim girls work in offices. No, who knew, right? This is how we need our world to move forward. Our media absolutely, without question, needs to look like the world around us. It has to. It's not a matter of inconvenience. It's a matter of humanity, basic humanity. Because for many of us, it's not just images. For many of us, it is it's static noise, right? It's blinding us. It's blinding so many of us. And for those of us who are victimized by it, the personal is political. And social media gives us the power to completely reclaim the labels that political power imposed on us in the first place. And that is something that we can never take for granted. Thank you.
In randomness, we trust.